This video is going to save your entire fantasy football season. Yes, that's a bold statement, but I'm going to be sharing 4 big mistakes that drafters, your league mates, and everybody else is making and how you can avoid it to get the edge. So 4 big time draft mistakes right here on the show. Once you're aware of something, you're able to avoid it and mitigate the risk of falling into that trap. Okay, so 4 draft traps right here for you to avoid. Big episode. Now, I start every show with the breaking news. So I've got some news. We got to talk about the Judkins situation here. So I'm going to get to that and more. If you are new to the channel, make sure you guys do smash that thumbs up. It takes a fraction of a second. In fact, while you're listening to this, just hit the thumbs up. Just quickly hit it. Let's try to get to 1,000 thumbs up today. Let's go crazy here. I want everybody to views it to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel, gets the algorithm pushed out. And of course, grab the 16-round draft solution. It's very important you guys win your leagues, and I deliver on a high level. Sleepers, breakouts, auto players draft each round, printable cheat sheet, which I update till the season starts, full mock drafts, everything on a silver platter, so you have an ironclad roster. This weekend, use code WIN to save. I'm telling you, you'll be light years ahead of the sheep in your league. And nobody's thinking like this. Everyone's just giving you copy and paste BS. It's not gonna how you're gonna win your league. Grab 60 rounds, be light years ahead of the sheep. Grab it below, okay? Or head on over to thefantasyfootballcouch.com if you're in the car. All right, pull over, of course, and then grab it. All right, let's start off with the latest news and notes here. And you know how we start that off. We go with Mr. Breaking Brad.
We now have breaking news.
There he is.
It is with great urgency that we bring you these following messages.
I like the tune. Brad actually showed up pretty sober today. He's not partying as much lately, so that's good. He's focused. Now he knows the season's coming up. So we got Brad completely focused. Brad, how you feeling today? You feeling good?
We now have breaking news.
So you could tell he's on his A game, and you know we got to be as well if we want to win our fantasy leagues, and he's a good example now. Okay, so let's first of all talk about this Cleveland Browns running back Quinshon Judkins was arrested on a charge of domestic violence and battery in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on Saturday, July 12th. Fort Lauderdale, what are you doing? Isn't he on, is he on the Jacksonville Jaguars or is he on the Cleveland Browns? I know it's off season, but what are you doing in Florida? And then from what I'm hearing, like again, this is probably going to break by the time you guys get this, or maybe if you're listening to this Monday, it was brutal. Like it wasn't even a mild thing. Apparently it was a serious domestic thing. I don't know all the details, but obviously if he's arrested, I would assume he's going to see a judge Monday morning. I'm recording this Sunday, July 13th. So it's not a good look, man. If you are a rookie, right? Or if you're an NFL player, or if you're even a man, if you're a human being, you shouldn't be doing this. Do not get involved in the domestic stuff. I'm telling you, especially in a situation where like you are a rookie, you don't even have your rookie contract signed and you're out there doing stuff like this, man. It's terrible. Now this is alleged. I don't know all the, no one really knows all the details at the time of this recording, but it's not a good look. I mean, you are a rookie coming in. You've worked your entire life to get to this moment. And now you're about to get paid and start the season. Oh, we're almost there. Training camp is right there. And then you go and get arrested. And this is very common in the offseason. Players either speed or domestics, or it's like a common thing that it almost seems like they need football in their life to keep them busy because they got a lot of time on their hands or something. Like, what are you doing down in Florida now? Like you got a training camp coming up, dude. And then you go and get arrested. And now let's talk fantasy impact. Obviously, Samson gets a major boost here, Dylan Sampson. I don't know. I haven't seen the tape. I don't know if there's tape on this. I don't know if there's footage. I don't know all the details. But if this is something serious, if this is like a Ray Rice type situation, will the NFL sign him on? How that works out? Is there going to be a suspension? Is there going to be jail time? I don't know. I have no idea. This is going to unfold. But if he does not make the NFL, or they don't pay him, or they boot him out or something like that, not make the NFL, meaning like he doesn't get paid or start, or they decide we don't want him to, continue on with the league. If the league decides that, then Samson gets a major boost. Even if a suspension happens, depending on how long it is, Samson gets a boost. So it's very, very interesting how to see how that's going to unfold. Okay. Dalton Kincaid, 70, just a quick note here, 75 targets, 2024, ranked second on the team. That's interesting because, again, they didn't really have Keon Coleman step up last year. And remember, Kincaid was coming off in the third round. I told you he'd bust. Just did not give his ROI. And I really think Keon's going to step up in that offense. Be careful with those early round tight ends. Continuing on with the news here, I want to talk about RJ Harvey. Still has not signed his rookie contract at this point, even though the Broncos rookies are scheduled to report to training camp Wednesday, July 16th. Him and also Trey Harris remain unsigned, will not report to training camp with the rest of the team's rookies on Saturday, July 12th. So Trey Harris already did not report, and Denver Broncos second round choice RJ Harvey, who I'm a big fan of for fantasy, has not signed his rookie contract, but he is scheduled to report on Wednesday. So Trey Harris not reporting, RJ Harvey scheduled to report Wednesday, July 16th for Harvey. Okay, other things I want to talk about here, worth noting here, Xavier Worthy does not know if he will be used as a punt returner this season, but believes he can have success in the role if asked. Okay, well, here's the thing. He's coming off round 5 in fantasy, and I'm telling you, do not draft Xavier Worthy. Be careful with Rashee Rice as well. We don't have a true one there. In fact, Kelsey's coming off after these guys. We're going to talk about that on the show today because I got a point to there, okay? Apparently, Christian McCaffrey looks incredible and so explosive, according to fullback Kyle Juszczyk. Listen, someone commented and DM'd me, or so I saw in one of my comments say, Christian McCaffrey always looks good in July, right? But then come season, non-contact hamstring injuries, missing time, hard to trust. He is actually 2 for 5 in his last seasons in regards to being healthy. 2 for 5, not a good success rate for Christian McCaffrey. If he has a good season this year, then he's batting 500. You know, I don't trust Christian McCaffrey, although I do think he's trending up. I mean, no way but up from last year, okay? I do want to talk, last I heard about Najee Harris, he basically is likely to miss the start of training camp due to the eye injury suffered by the fireworks mishap. Another thing, it's like, dude, you have a starting job with the Chargers, essentially. You're going to lose your job. They drafted Hampton, who's obviously superior, more explosive, more exciting than you. And you're out there having fireworks fights or whatever you're doing, pretty much almost taking your eye out. You're lucky your eye didn't come out. So I don't know what to say about Najee Harris other than he's not too smart. That's all I got to say. Okay. That's all I got to say. And that's it for the latest news. There's nothing really else that here just jumps up to me. Obviously, McLaurin has also been talking to head coach Dan Quinn this offseason, even though he skipped offseason workouts and the mandatory minicamp, according to a writer here. It's not believed that McLaurin is looking to reset the receiver market. So apparently he just wants to get paid. He's not looking to get that Jamar Chase contract, but he wants to get paid. Hopefully they come to an agreement there because he's going to be eating this year with Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels is as advertised, I believe in Daniels. He's a good quarterback. So there could be something there with upside with McLaurin this year. Okay. That's it for breaking news.
We now have breaking news.
We're done breaking, Brad. That's it for breaking news. Okay, let's talk about these 4 mistakes here that everybody's making that you need to avoid. Draft traps that you need to avoid so you can actually win your leagues. Okay, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up and grab the 16-round draft solution. It will put you light years ahead of the sheep in your league. Secure the solution, secure the championship. You'll be light years ahead of the sheep, okay? All right, let's get to the first mistake. Now, this blows my mind that people are even telling you to go 0 RB. So mistake number 1 is waiting to draft an RB early. Let me repeat this for you so you guys can understand it, okay? Waiting, and I spelled waiting wrong here. Waiting to draft RB early is a big mistake. Going 0 RB, why? Why is that a mistake? It's very simple, and I'm going to make it clear. Running back is the most scarce position, all right? There's only about 10. You could argue that there's 10 because there's going to be a committee everywhere. There's 10 running backs, literally, that have no competition. That's it. After that, it's a bit of a crapshoot. And I see so many people, these so-called experts, doing posts on social media or talking about it on their podcast. Go 0 RB. You got to get those early round wide receivers. And the problem is there's a significant fall off. I want to emphasize this point home. I want to drive it home. Some people are going 0 RB and then drafting Montgomery as their one or James Conner. That is a huge mistake. James Conner's on his last legs and Montgomery's an RB2. You don't want to be doing this. Okay. I'm telling you, and I'm telling you, you got to listen good. Okay. Waiting on running back is a huge mistake because you are going to lose those volume getters. You're going to lose the Saquons, the Bijans of the world, the Derrick Henrys of the world, the Jahmyr Gibbs, even though he's in a committee. I'm not on Jahmyr Gibbs as much. You're going to lose the Genties. You're going to lose the Buckies. You're going to lose the Chase Brown, who's in a good position. You're going to lose the Kyron Williams. You're going to lose even Christian McCaffrey, who I'm not a fan of, but he is the workhorse on paper. So this is a big mistake, waiting on running back. Don't wait. Grab them early. What I've been doing is I've been actually securing my 4 to 5 running backs from the 5-6 rounds, getting them off the table early, and then I don't have to worry about running backs because there is a ton of wide receivers later, which we'll get to in a second. But I wanted to hammer home this first point. Mistake number 1, waiting to draft a running back early. Okay? Don't wait. That's my advice. Okay? Don't be the guy that goes 0 RB. All right? In the 16 rounds, you'll understand why, because I lay it out. Okay? Mistake number 2. Drafting regression players. Don't do this. And this is a mistake that everybody's doing. I'll give you a quick example of some regression players this year, okay? Lad McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., with the addition of Travis Hunter, Lad McConkey, the addition of Trey Harris and Amari Hampton. You've got Lamar Jackson coming off this astronomical pinnacle 41 touchdown season. Is not going to happen again. George Kittle, who was a beneficiary because everybody was banked up on the 49ers. Those are just a few examples of regression players, yet people continue to draft them based on ADP or based on last year. Okay, Saquon Barkley even. There's another one, right? Like coming off a astronomical 2,000-yard rare rushing season and a Super Bowl hangover. It's just not going to happen again. You got to factor in a major regression. And if you want Saquon, cool, maybe a second round would be good. We got to factor in a regression. But he's coming off as a top 3 pick, and that's going to be catastrophic. And people are just completely ignoring this drafting regression. Like these players that are regressing, you just completely ignore it, you will lose your league. You got to be aware that players coming off the top are going to be declining, all right, somewhat. Not all of them, but a majority of them. It's historically shown. We've seen Michael Thomas back in 2018 fall off the cliff. We saw Cooper Kupp fall off the cliff. We saw Christian McCaffrey last year fall off the cliff. It happens all the time after monster, pinnacle years. And yet people continue to draft exactly based on last year without any concern or worry or law of probability and averages that injuries happen, declines happen. These guys are human. So you need to be aware of this and don't draft regressing players. Don't do this. Okay. This is very important. Mistake number 3. This is very important. This is like one of the most important ones. Not looking at depth charts and overpaying for certain players. Now, let me give you an example. T. Higgins, round 2. I'm going to keep picking on that. The guy had an astronomical pinnacle year going back, to tip number 2. He's also a regressing player because he's never had 10 touchdowns in his entire career. And he's coming off a contract hangover. That's part of regressing players. So this spills over into, number 2 spills over to this one. But let's focus on point number 3. You got to be aware of the depth chart. Last year, Deebo Samuel and Ayuk. And I don't get it. It's like they didn't even tell you this. Or it's like people weren't aware. Yet they were coming off back-to-back in round 3 last year. Deebo Samuel, Ayuk. Back-to-back. How do you even do that? How do you even go Deebo Samuel and Ayuk back-to-back in round 3 in 2024? In 2025 fantasy football, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing Rashee Rice round 3. We're seeing Xavier Worthy, who I just talked about in the news, could be returning punts, coming off round 5. And the wide receiver 1, who's the tight end, who's always been a tight end, is Kelsey, even though he's on a decline in his career, is coming off round 6 to 7. So now you're getting Rice round 3, who's, coming off, who knows, whatever he's coming off, his injury last year, his suspensions possibly looming and all that. Played 4 games last year. Okay, and then you've got Xavier Worthy, who maxed out at like 98 targets without Rice there. So they spread the ball out. There's no true one in KC. That's one example. How about Adams round 3 and Puka round 1? Since when has Adams taken a backseat to anybody? He never has. And he's still good. Like, I understand he's on the tail end of his career, but he's still pretty good. He's better than Kupp was last year. Again, everyone's drafting Puka round 1, not acknowledging that Adams is there. And Adams is coming off round 3. You can get, which we'll get to the last one here. I'm going to save it. You can get wide receivers later. Okay. So you got to look at the depth chart and say, man, that ADP doesn't make sense because basically we don't know who the one is sometimes. We don't know who the one, and I got to spend early draft capital on uncertainty. It doesn't make sense, which goes back to tip number one, load up on those running backs early because there's wide receivers later. And this typically happens a lot more with wide receivers where you have this cluster, you know what, of talent early rounds because they're a name or because they had a decent season last year, like Higgins round 2, Jamar Chase round 1. Why? Why would you settle with a wide receiver 2 as your wide receiver 1? That's ludicrous. It's not what I teach. This is why 16 rounds is the truth. Grab 16 rounds. I'm screaming it from the rooftops. Because last year I told you to draft Ladd McConkey and Brian Thomas Jr. late while everyone's telling you to draft CMC round 1, Tyreek Hill round 1, Brandon Ayuk round 3, Deebo Samuel round 3. That is not going to win your leagues, okay? I'm telling you, listen and listen good. Okay, so mistake number 3, just to recap, look at the depth chart. Does it make sense? Am I overpaying? Am I getting a wide receiver 2 as my wide receiver 1 on my team? If so, don't do it. There's tons of value at wide receiver, which leads to mistake number 4 is not looking at the value of wide receiver later and not acknowledging that there's a ton of rookies that could break out. There's a ton of wide receiver depth. I'll give you a quick example. Olave is coming off round 5, wide receiver 26. Calvin Ridley is like wide receiver 35. Calvin Ridley, everybody. Okay. And the reason is because there's so much speculation. People question. They're like, hey, man, like, I don't trust Cam Ward because he's a rookie. The guy's a pretty efficient quarterback. I think he can get the ball to Ridley, right? You got Trey Harris, right? The true X receiver. I get him round 10, and I'm getting the wide receiver 1 potentially. Keon Coleman. There's a sleeper for you. Keon Coleman is the wide receiver 1, had a down year last year. He's increased his speed, he's bulked up. He's going to look better. A wide receiver 1 I can get later, right? Dante Thornton playing with first team, right? It's just like you got to see this stuff. And going back to, I just thought about something when I thought about the Raiders. Brock Bowers coming off of pinnacle year, regression player, right? There was nobody else there. You got to look at the depth chart. What's moved, what's shaken, what's changed. And there's so much value, which tip number 4 at the wide receiver position. You can get tons of wide receivers because you only got to fill 2 wide receiver spots. Sometimes have 3 wide receiver spots. Roll the dice on 6 or 7 of these rookies or upside guys or throwing an Olave in there, or Cortland Sutton, something like that. And you've got yourself your wide receiver core. I guarantee you 2 are going to hit. I guarantee you. I did this last year. I had Saquon Barkley round 1. I had Derrick Henry round 2. I had Josh Allen round 3. And then I was getting like Ladd McConkey and Brian Thomas later. And we did well. We did really well. We won. Okay. So same type of thing. You got to see the value of wide receiver later. And that's the problem. People are telling you 0 RB, and then you're fading, the wide receivers later because you've got them early, but you're missing out on the running backs. Because again, it gets thin and trim at running back. I don't want James Conner or Pacheco or David Montgomery or DeAndre Swift to be my RB1 or RB2. Unacceptable. All right. You don't want that. All right. So be smart. Don't make these mistakes. And now that you're aware of them, you won't make them, and you've saved your season. But if you want all the optimal players, everything delivered to you, this is making sense to you. Wow, Joe's the only one talking common sense in the industry, because I am. Get the 16-round draft solution and smash your leagues. You'll be light years. You'll leave the sheep in the dust. They won't even know what hit them because you'll have a backup plan for a backup plan. You'll be rock solid. All right. Have yourself an outstanding weekend. Thought I'd come on and give you guys some fantasy football advice and fantasy football draft strategy and some one-on-one here. Make sure you guys are subscribed, thumbs up, and drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of these tips. Any other mistakes that you think people are making. Love to get your feedback. Make this interactive. Grab 16 rounds. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. We'll talk soon. Have a great day. Fantasy Football 2024 is back. Turn on the bell.